it sounds all techy and mysterious, but honestly, it's not that complicated. The surface web is where most of us spend our time: Google, YouTube, social media. But the deep web, that's where things get interesting. Think private forums, password protected sites, and yeah, some darker, sketchier corners you might wish you hadn't found. With that said, here are a few stories to give you a glimpse of what's lurking out there. Thanks for watching, and let's dive in. So this is obviously a throwaway account. I don't post much, and after what happened, I don't think I ever will again. I'm not sure if I'm making the right choice by sharing this, but I can't keep it bottled up anymore. Maybe someone will understand. Maybe someone will listen. For context, I've always been the type to love creepy stuff. I grew up watching horror movies, reading creepypastas, that kind of thing. I thought I'd seen it all. You watch enough fake found footage and creepy videos, and you get a little desensitized. You assume everything's just made to scare people for fun. Anyway, one night I was bored out of my mind, scrolling Reddit, looking for something spooky. I ended up in one of those dark web threads. 10 creepiest things found on the dark web kind of stuff. I'd heard about it before, but always thought it was more urban legend than reality. Still, I was curious. So like an idiot, I decided to check it out for myself. I downloaded Tor, followed some sketchy guide I found online, and started exploring. At first it was disappointing. Just forums, crappy marketplaces, and some random links that didn't work. I was about to give up when I found this site. It was called Eye in the Sky or something like that. The homepage was just this creepy orange eyeball logo with a single link under it. Enter. In hindsight, I should have just closed the tab right there. But I was bored and thought, what's the worst that could happen? When I clicked, the screen went black for a few seconds, then a video player loaded. The title said, "Open Bets, Live Feed." At first, it was just static and I almost clicked out. But then the picture cleared, my stomach dropped. There was a guy tied to a chair. His hands were behind his back and his mouth was duct taped. He was in this dingy basement with concrete walls and a single light bulb swaying from the ceiling. His face, man, I'll never forget it. He looked terrified. His eyes were darting all over, like he was searching for some kind of escape. Chat box on the side of the screen lit up with messages. People were typing things like, "Make him scream," and "Do it already." At first I thought, this has to be fake, right? But the way the guy was moving, the look in his eyes, it had to be real. Then someone stepped into the frame. He was wearing this cheap-looking Halloween mask, the kind that smells of sweaty rubber inside, and holding a knife. The guy in the chair started thrashing, trying to yell through the duct tape, but he couldn't do anything. The masked person walked up to him, slowly, like he were savoring the moment. He leaned in close and whispered something. I couldn't hear what it was. And he dragged the knife across his arm. Not deep, just enough to scratch the skin, drawing blood. That scream. I can still hear it. I panicked and slammed my laptop shut. My heart was racing and my hands were shaking. I kept telling myself it had to be fake, some twisted art project or something. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The next day, I deleted everything. Tor, my browser history, all of it. I just wanted to forget. But the images wouldn't leave my head. I kept seeing that guy's face, the fear in his eyes, over and over. A few days later, I got a text message from an unknown number saying, "We saw you." I hadn't used anything traceable. At least I thought I hadn't. How did they know my number? The next day I got another text. It was a photo of my apartment building, taken from across the street. At that point, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to go to the police, but what would I even say? That I was poking around the dark web and saw something I wasn't supposed to? I felt sick. Every little noise in my apartment made me jump. I barely slept for days. Eventually the text stopped, but I don't think I'll ever feel safe again. I moved out a few months later, and even now, in a new city, I feel like someone's watching me. I know it sounds paranoid, but I just can't shake it. I'm newly divorced. My ex took everything. All I've got left is this tiny apartment that smells like someone's been smoking in it since the 90s. I guess I should be thankful we didn't have kids, but honestly, it still feels like I lost everything. It's like my life hit the reset button, and not in a good way. Anyway, a few months after the divorce, I was in a pretty bad place. My days were all the same. Wake up, work, eat takeout, go to sleep. I was bored, lonely, and honestly just wanted something to break the monotony. That's when I started reading about the dark web. I'd heard of it before, like everyone else, right? All the scary stories about hitmen, stolen identities, illegal stuff. It sounded, I don't know, dangerous but kinda exciting too. I figured most of it was just urban legends, but I couldn't stop wondering, what's really out there? So one night, I downloaded Tor and decided to check it out for myself. Most of it was honestly disappointing. I was expecting secret societies or weird cults, but it was mostly dead links and sketchy-looking marketplaces selling counterfeit crap. But then I found this site called World Basic. The homepage looked like it was done in the early 2000s. Just a black screen with a text link that said, "Watch the world unfiltered." I clicked it. Of course I did. I needed to know. The site had this long list of live feeds, just labeled with random numbers like Feed 22 or Feed 37. No thumbnails, no descriptions. I clicked on one, and it opened a grainy black and white video of someone's living room. A guy sitting on a couch, scrolling on his phone, totally oblivious. It was creepy, but also kinda interesting. I was seeing a slice of someone's life I wasn't supposed to. That first feed hooked me. I spent hours clicking through the list. A woman cooking dinner in her kitchen. A teenager playing video games in their bedroom. A guy in his underwear asleep on his couch with the TV still on. All of it felt so normal. But the fact that they didn't know anyone was watching, that made it addictive. It became a routine for me. I'd come home from work, pour myself a drink, and spend the night watching these feeds. I told myself it wasn't hurting anyone. I wasn't hacking the cameras myself. I was just looking. What's the harm in that? I was actually surprised I was addicted to voyeurism. Then I found her. She was sitting at her desk in what looked like a dorm room, typing on her laptop. She had this framed poster of some mountains on the wall and a stack of books on the floor next to her bed. I don't know why, but something about her caught my attention. I started watching her feed more and more. It wasn't even that she was doing anything interesting. Half the time she was just scrolling on her phone or studying. But it felt comforting, like I knew her even though I didn't. One night I noticed something familiar in the background of her room. A photo of this coffee shop near my old neighborhood. I'd been there a bunch of times with my ex. Suddenly, this wasn't just some random stranger on a screen. She was real. She was close. I started digging. I found her Instagram and her Twitter. I wasn't planning on doing anything. Honestly, I don't even know what I was looking for. I just wanted to know more. But then I found out her name and her school, and it hit me how far I'd gone. That's when the emails started. The first one just said, "Stop watching her." No subject line, no signature. I tried to tell myself it was some random spam, but then I got another one. It was a photo of me, sitting on my couch, staring at my laptop. I unplugged everything and shoved my laptop into a drawer. For the next few days, I barely slept. Every little noise in my apartment made me jump. I felt like someone was watching me, but I didn't know who or how. The final email came a week later. It just said, "You're my product." There was a link to a recorded video. The video was of me, exiting my building, walking to the station. It looked like the videos were stolen from cameras on the street. The video cut as soon as I entered the bus. I packed a bag that night and left. I haven't been back to that apartment since. I don't know if they're still watching me, and honestly, I don't want to know. I threw my laptop away and changed my number. But even now, in a new city, in a new apartment, I can't shake the feeling that someone's out there, keeping tabs on me. I still cover my laptop's camera with a Post-it just to be sure. I used to run wire fraud scams. Nothing violent or whatever, but I stole a lot of money, pissed off the wrong people, and ended up with cuffs on my wrists. I ain't no genius or anything, but I know my way around computers. Guess that's why the cops decided to cut me a deal instead of throwing me in a cell and forgetting I exist. They said they needed someone who could navigate the internet, the real internet, not the Google and YouTube shit everyone's used to. We're talking the dark web, the places you ain't supposed to go unless you've got a death wish. And honestly, I was desperate enough to say yes. Better this than 15 years upstate. Anyway, about 3 months into my deal, they handed me a case. This girl, Kayla, 9 years old, went missing, been gone for 2 weeks, and nobody had a clue where she was. Her picture was everywhere. Cute kid with a gap-toothed smile and messy hair, probably had a stack of homework waiting for her when she got snatched. The detective running the show slid me a note with a URL. I was used to having little information about the matters, as I was in a need-to-know basis. It took me to a forum called Young Liberty. You don't want to know what the banner looked like. Let's just say it was enough to make me feel like I needed to bleach my eyeballs. The posts weren't much better. Stolen IDs, drug markets, stuff you could probably find on the regular dark web if you were dumb enough to look. But then I hit this thread titled Little Star, Found One. The detective ordered me to see what it was about, so I entered the thread. It opened with a picture. A little girl standing in the middle of some dingy-ass room. It didn't look good. The room looked like it smelled like mold and decay. I zoomed in, hoping I was wrong. But nope, it was the missing 9-year-old. Same messy ponytail, same gap-toothed smile, only she wasn't smiling anymore. I felt sick, but I couldn't stop. The next post was worse. A timestamped video of her crying, begging for her parents. Her voice was broken. I couldn't even finish it. I slammed my laptop shut like that'd erase what I saw. The detective had to pry it out of me. Turns out the timestamps were recent. Like really recent. The room in the video had some kind of logo painted on the wall in the corner. A company I didn't recognize. The detective said it was a rental storage place not far from here. That's when shit got real. They raided the place a few hours later, found Kayla alive but barely hanging on. She was locked in a room, surrounded by cameras and God knows what else. The guy who took her? He wasn't there, but they got enough evidence to ID him. You'd think I'd feel good about it, right? I helped save her, so that makes me one of the good guys now. But nah, I don't feel good. I feel like garbage. I can't unsee her face, the way she looked in that room, and knowing I had to wade through all that filth just to find her. It screws with your head. The worst part? I know there's more out there. More kids, more monsters. And no matter how many you catch, there's always another thread waiting to pop up, another dark corner to shine a light on. I don't really know how to start this because it's embarrassing and honestly still kind of freaks me out. But I figured sharing this might keep someone else from making the same mistake. So, a while back I got curious about the dark web. Not for anything illegal or sketchy, just the kind of curiosity you get when you hear everyone talking about how it's this hidden corner of the internet full of weird stuff. I thought, how bad can it really be? I set up Tor, slapped on a VPN because everyone says you need one, and started poking around. To be honest, most of what I found was pretty underwhelming. There were forums, marketplaces, random blogs, nothing you couldn't find on the regular internet. I actually felt kind of stupid for expecting something crazier. After a while, I found this site that had a list of random links like a directory. It didn't look sketchy, just boring, but I was already there, so I clicked around. One of the links took me to a site full of videos about agriculture. It was called something like Farm-Wise Exchange or something equally bland. The first video I watched was about slaughterhouses. It showed how chickens, cows, and pigs were processed. Honestly, it was kind of fascinating. It's the kind of thing you know happens but don't really think about, and seeing it laid out like that was, I don't know, mildly interesting. I didn't think much of it at the time. I ended up watching a bunch of videos on the site. Everything from farm equipment tutorials to more slaughterhouse footage. It got progressively more graphic, but it still felt like something you'd see in a documentary or a YouTube expose. Not illegal, just unsettling. I came across a section that wasn't about animals anymore. The thumbnails looked similar, but the titles were vague. things like processing in progress or advanced techniques. I clicked one out of curiosity, and that's when things got weird. The video showed a close-up of a table with something wrapped in plastic. The camera cut to someone in gloves holding a large knife, and then it zoomed out just enough for me to realize it wasn't a pig or a cow, it was a person. I froze. My brain couldn't process what I was looking at. I immediately clicked out of the video, but the site didn't let me leave right away. It flashed a message at the top of the screen that said something like, "Enjoying the content? Share it with trusted peers." I panicked and closed the browser entirely. I tried to tell myself it was fake, like some kind of edgy art project or shock site, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. I didn't think anything else of it after that. I mean, I felt gross for even seeing it, but I figured that was the end of it. I didn't download anything, didn't sign up for anything, just clicked a few links and logged off. A week later, I got an email from what looked like a generic government address. The subject line just said, "Concerning your online activity." At first I thought it was a scam, but the email had my name, my IP address, and the exact date and time I was on that site. It said something along the lines of, "Your activity has been flagged for accessing prohibited content." They didn't accuse me of anything directly, but the email warned that future activity could result in legal consequences. I was shaking reading it. I didn't even know they could track me with a VPN, but clearly they did. I haven't touched Tor or the dark web since. Honestly, just thinking about it gives me anxiety. I wasn't trying to do anything wrong, but one click can screw you over in ways you can't even imagine. First off, throwaway account for reasons, you know? Don't want to accidentally dox myself or get some dude in my DMs asking weird stuff. Anyway, figured I'd share this since it's been bouncing around in my head. So, I mess around on the deep web sometimes. Not like anything illegal or sketch. I actually run a little side hustle selling feet pics. Yeah, laugh it up. But it pays better than flipping NFTs in this market, and at least it's consistent. That's not the point. On a slow day when sales were down and I had time to kill, I started poking around various forums on the deep web, just out of curiosity. For the most part, it was the usual junk you'd expect. Conspiracy theories, weird niche communities, and poorly maintained drug markets that look like a 90s website. Nothing that interesting. I stumbled upon this one forum. It didn't have a flashy name, just something generic, Document Archive 42. Intrigued, I clicked in, thinking it might be another dead end. What I found was a treasure trove of what were labeled as unclassified documents. These were supposedly files from various agencies around the world. CIA, MI6, KGB, yes, even them, and a ton of others I'd never even heard of. Most of them were related to cold cases, old conspiracies, and declassified stuff that felt like someone had raided a government basement. Some of it looked fake, like a file about how pigeons were allegedly used as spies during the Cold War. No joke. Apparently some people thought pigeons with tiny cameras were a real threat. Other files were darker, like unsolved murders or investigations into cults that just disappeared overnight. One document caught my eye. A supposed CIA report about Project Umbra, a mission to investigate temporal anomalies in the 80s. Yeah, it sounded like pure sci-fi nonsense, but it was detailed enough to make me pause. Another file was a supposed transcript of a conversation between two NASA engineers arguing about whether some photos of the moon had been doctored. Again, could have been fake, but it was oddly entertaining. I spent hours just going through this stuff, laughing at the absurdity of some, and getting weirdly absorbed in others. At no point did anything seem outright dangerous. It was more like reading the conspiracy section of Reddit on steroids. Here's the thing though. I'm 99.9% sure most, if not all, of it was fake. Some of the official logos on the documents were laughably bad, and the dates didn't always match up with actual historical events. But I'll admit, whoever put the forum together did a fantastic job making it look legit. So why am I writing this? Mostly just to say, if you're thinking about diving into the deep web, be cautious. It's not all serial killers and hitmen waiting to find you, as movies would have you believe. But it's definitely not all fun and games either. A lot of the stuff out there is fake, exaggerated, or straight up scams designed to mess with you. If you ever find yourself going down that rabbit hole, don't trust everything you see. It's easy to get sucked into the weirdness and take things too seriously. But remember that the internet, especially the deep web, is full of people with too much time on their hands. So, stay curious. But trust me when I say this, don't dig too deep, just stay with the feet pics. Living in the dark has its thrills, but it's not for everyone. What I'm trying to say is this: don't go looking for shit unless you're ready to face the consequences. And if you're intrigued by the unknown, remember to check out the next video. Stay curious, but don't lose yourself in the shadows. Thanks for watching.